I want to talk about why architecture and Lego really go hand in hand and things like that too. And I think there's a lot of similarities, and I'll talk about a few of them too. And both when it comes to architecture and like designing like a real life building or even a stadium or something like that, and also designing something in Lego is both design ways. You're both are a process. It's a step by step process. You're not just going to get there overnight. I know with my Lego Target Field, it was a very step by step process. Like I was saying a little bit earlier, start off with inspiration, start off with a lot of researching pictures and things like that, and having a plan, taking measurements. Same thing if you're going to be working in the drafting field or maybe a civil engineering field or something like that. Taking measurements, you're understanding, the layout, you're understanding like how things are going to, be built and things like that. You need to know, how much space you have, like what scale do you want to build your stadium at. So, those are all very important, aspects of Legos in architecture and civil engineering that go hand in hand. Even with the scale when it comes to, in Lego, figuring out a scale for your build is so important. You want to figure that out, prior to, starting your build. You can't really figure that out as you're going. That was something that was very important for me too. With the inspiration, I needed to make sure I found a good scale for my build, and in a micro scale, build for my target field. If you don't know, micro scale is a step below minifigure scale, and it just works out better because if you were truly to size out a stadium at minifigure scale, that's going to be like 35 or really somewhere between like 25 and 30 feet long, and it's just not practical, with the space. So, just all those things combined in 4 feet by 5 or whatever my stadium is, it works out really, really well. That micro scale, it looks truly like a stadium, like a model, something like that too. And, you're creating like similar with, civil engineering or draft or architectural drafting, you're using your mind, you're envisioning, you're using your eyes, you're using your hands. You're always engaged. You're always thinking like, what's the next move and things like that. You're always visualizing in your head. How are things going to work? How is this going to go connected? How am I going to design this and things like that? And I think with Legos, it's very important. A lot of the time too. I'm visualizing in my head. How am I going to design this curve behind home plate? How am I going to go about the height of the suite level? Which is the third level of target field, or even the club level. What's how many sections, how many rows of seats do I need to do, and things like that. So,